Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Nationwide. We're live from Abuja. I'm Ruth Aguela. Let's begin with the latest update on COVID-19. Confirmed cases of coronavirus increased to 1,095 in the country after 114 new infections were recorded on Friday, the 24th, as at 11:30 p.m. Information from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control shows that of the 114 new cases recorded, 80 are in Lagos, 21 in Gombe, 5 in the FCT, and 2 each in Zamfara and Edo, while Kaduna, Oyo, Sokoto, and Ogun each recorded 1 case. Deaths from COVID-19 currently stands at 32, while a total of 208 persons have been discharged. Let's take you to Gusau, where we hear that Governor Bello Mohammed of Zamfara State says the confirmation of 2 cases of COVID-19 in the state last night has justified the measures earlier taken by his administration to prevent the disease. The governor made the remarks in a short video clip in which he formally announced that 2 persons from the state tested positive for COVID-19 as confirmed by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. Governor Mohammed says he will later in the day announce additional measures to be taken in order to protect the state from further spread of the virus. A statement issued by Special Advisor to the Governor on Public Enlightenment, Media and Communication, Zailani Boppa, urges people in the state to be more strict in the observance of all the laid down preventive measures against the pandemic. And in Dusai, some residents in Jigawa border communities are crying out that unless drastic and urgent measures are taken by the authorities of Nigeria and Niger Republic, there may be a possible spread of COVID-19 along borders of the 2 countries through the state. Correspondent Abdullahi Garba Bernankudu, on special assignment from the area, has a situation report.
Maigatari International Market, a border town with Niger Republic, at its full capacity before the outbreak of coronavirus pandemic. This is, however, Maigatari Market presently following the ban order placed by Jigawa state government on market days to control the spread of the virus. But the story does not end here. In what could be regarded as desperate move to transact their businesses, traders from the other side of Niger Republic have established another market within their territory since the ban does not affect their country. A situation that gives opportunity for Nigerian traders to cross border and intermingle, of course, not observing all safety measures against the pandemic. Yes, government has closed down border, but some of the security operatives sympathize with us and allow us to go and earn our source of livelihood because of the level of poverty here.
Yes, I believe. Then why do you cross over to Niger Republic to do the market there? Because of what? Because of what? Poverty. Poverty. Because of poverty. This is the reason why some people travel to Niger to do a business. Because of getting some income that they can do.
One may wonder, what is the role of security operatives manning Nigerian border and enforcing the federal government policy on border closure? NTA News observes that there is an effort measuring the temperature of the traders at checkpoint, which many say is not enough, as the situation may not be the same in the other neighboring country. The border is also under lock and key, but due to the porous nature of the place, traders use footpaths, overwhelming the immigration officials.
We are afraid of those who are coming from other states passing close to the border.
These are some of the issues we took to the table of Jigawa State Task Force on COVID-19 control.
So federal governments have deployed the necessary security personnel to, patrol those borders. But also, our committee also is working to support the work already federal government is doing to ensure that these borders are kept quite safe and people do not go to other countries and import disease to Nigeria.
Well, the keyword here as we leave Megatari border town is for the security agencies of the two countries of Nigeria and Niger Republic to work together towards fighting this pandemic coronavirus. And for the people in the area to believe that this coronavirus is real and is dangerous. From Megatari town in Jigawa State, Abdullahi Garba Burmakudu, NTA News.
Thank you, Abdullahi. I couldn't agree less. And Kano is back on track of its lockdown after the grace the people of the city enjoyed, which allowed them make purchases for Ramadan. Well, this old religious city is quiet. Hamis Rogo has that story for us.
You definitely do not want to see the pictures of major streets of Kano. They are a far cry from their restless nature. This is, for instance, Malaria Road. It is the biggest window to the city of Kano. It connects the city to all states in the country. They are always a traffic nightmare. In particular moments where there are events like the Ramadan is now, there can be a real trial. Massive influx of vehicles for various motives, including visit to its popular markets. See what Malaria Road is today. Perhaps the biggest story is with main town Kano. The ancient city can mobilize 4 million people around its entire scope on a given day. It is amazing if there are 100 people on its streets now. This is the road emanating from Tarauni, leading to Government House Kano and to the Emir's Palace. You can make a census of the movements here without recourse to a paper. In the inner city, yes, the lockdown works, but it is liberal. In Kano, if you really like to appreciate the success of the lockdown, you really have to come to the Kano city itself. This is a place of more than 5 million people who that on a daily basis coming out to seek for livelihood. Many of them live by the day. And of course, if you want to know the success of it, you have to come to where they find the livelihood most. Their markets. Markets apart, people with small businesses in the inner city do put in a small show. There are much prayer movements of people too. Of course, there are also common pictures of commercial and public vehicles packed for good. Obedience to the lockdown by the people of Kano is good news because the state has high index cases of the COVID-19 infestation. The lockdown will help in curtailing the spread. Kano is also an area with high population density. Community transmission of COVID-19 can spell danger to the entire state. In Kano, Mohammed Hamis Rogo, NTA News.
And in Abuja, Saturday is one of the approved days for the residents of the Federal Capital Territory to enjoy 8 hours of shopping to enable them restock food items as they observe the stay-at-home order. Joshua Ojito, who was at Wuse Market, reports that measures are being worked out by the FCT administration to open 40 selling points in the city centre in compliance with the social distancing protocol.
The usual gridlock along Wuse Market Road is back, as residents of Abuja were in a rush hour shopping to restock food items. The use of face masks is now compulsory for anyone to access the market, with more measures being put in place by the market authority to prevent the spread of coronavirus.
Achieving social distancing in all accuracy in a place like market may not be achieved with a certainty. So the best measure is when you put on your face mask, I put on mine, both of us are safe. One other important approval that the Honorable Minister also gave, or directive rather, is the establishment of what we call neighborhood selling point.
Those permitted to open for business are traders selling essential items, while other shops remain under lock and key.
We are all trying to know where we can contribute, so that this thing will be tackled headlong.
However, observing social distancing in a place like this, many say remains a challenge that should be addressed as Nigeria battles COVID-19. In Abuja, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Let's get a situation report in Lagos as we join Jennifer Igwe to bring us more reports on Nationwide. Jennifer?
Thank you, Ruth. And still on COVID-19, contributory efforts have been pouring in from individuals, religious and corporate organizations to the coffers of vulnerable communities and households in Lagos State to enable them survive the lockdown period. The latest is coming from the Victims Support Fund COVID-19 Task Force to the Lagos State government. Dotun Guyemi has the report.
Provision of palliatives to the needy and the vulnerable has become the order of the day during this lockdown period. To achieve desirable results, the Victim Support Fund COVID-19 Task Force is forming strong synergy with federal, state governments and agencies. The items worth millions of naira, comprising food, medical supplies, personal protective equipment and essential hygiene products, were collected by the Commissioner of Agriculture on behalf of the Lagos State government.
We have also reached out to about 5,000 people living with disability in our 7 clusters. People with visual impairment, people with physical disability, and about 116 riverine communities in Lagos that we have also reached out to.
5 states, Borno, Taraba, Yobe, Adamawa, and the FCT have benefited from the gesture ahead of Lagos.
We're concerned about the community transmission, the human-to-human transmission of coronavirus. And if people are hungry and they're at home, if they are hungry, they will not stay at home. They will be mobile. They will have to go out. But if we're able to provide palliatives, with staple food items that can help people survive, then it's easy for the government to implement the lockdown order. So that's the reason why the VSF is here today.
The effort, according to the Victim Support Fund COVID-19 Task Force, is a continuous process. In Lagos, Dotun Okunyemi, NTA News.
And on preventive measures, as scientists and health workers across the globe work out strategies to end the COVID-19 pandemic, other effective measures that individuals can adopt to protect themselves from getting infected are being revealed. Joy Ken Abapoya reports.
The elderly and individuals who have pre-existing illnesses like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases and respiratory challenges are at a higher risk of having COVID-19 complications. This is why it is imperative that this group of persons deliberately stay safe.
The basic truth is that as an elderly person, as a very old person, the cells of the body is degenerating. Most of this immune system are also breaking down. They are also going down. So the best advice is for them to avoid contacting the infection.
While it is crucial to maintain hygienic standards like hand washing, wearing of masks and maintain social distancing, experts say adhering to healthy guidelines is the single best way to naturally raise immune system and combat the virus if infected. Going on a low-carb diet, consuming a high volume of vegetables as well as fruits, rich in beta-carotene and essential vitamins, experts say can help build body resistance.
When you talk about COVID-19, coronavirus, it is about viral infection. And whatever disease that enters into the body need immunity to fight those diseases for the patients to get well. So we cannot even put aside the issue of appropriate feeding.
Staying hydrated translates to drinking water regularly. In addition, sleeping for 7 to 8 hours daily and exercising for at least 30 minutes every day can boost personal immunity and prevent complications of COVID-19. In Lagos, Joy Ken Abakboya, NTA News.
It's good to take advice of experts. Now we have more on Nationwide, but first a break. Stay tuned.
This is not a joke. It is a matter of life and death. Mosques in Mecca and Medina have been closed. The Pope celebrated Mass on an empty St. Peter's Square. The famous Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris held Easter Mass with less than 10 people. India, Italy, and France are in complete lockdown. Other countries are in the process of following suit. We cannot be lax.
أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون.
The glorious month of Ramadan is here again, and we at Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society once again call on all faithful to observe the physical and social distancing directive of the government to curb the spread of COVID-19. Always wash your hands with soap and water, use hand sanitizers and face masks when necessary, and stay at home. Observe your obligatory salat, tarawih, tahajjud, du'as, and askars with your families from the comfort of your home. Stay at home, stay safe, stop the spread of COVID-19. This message is from Al-Habibiyah Islamic Society, from Allah to you, a light.
Now believe this Koroti. You know if you touch black man, if you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make a cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V&D.
I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give him?
Give me 200. Take your change now. You don't want your changes.
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. May una wash una hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so e no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
Wetin be this coronavirus thing? Na true?
You see this coronavirus wey be COVID-19. Na the whole world palava, and e don dey kill many people for China, Italy, UK, US, Spain, and even for other countries dem.
Okay, wetin come be the reason wey dem say make everybody tanda for house?
Na because if e dey waka pium go carry am from person wey don get am, you go carry come give your family dem. Na so the thing take dey kill other people for other countries.
Okay, wetin come be that social distancing sef?
You see social distance. Now make we no come close because this thing na from air and touch now we dey contact am. We suppose dey at least 6 foot away from each other every time.
So okay, no be only to wash your hand and to sanitize them alone.
Make we no take this washing of hand thing take play but make we come together, join hand as we take pursue Ebola, pursue this coronavirus. Make we be each other keepers now.
Thanks for staying with us. 2019 World Malaria Report shows progress in the prevention and control of malaria, especially in pregnant women and children. Now, this effort is being hampered in 2020 by the global response to the coronavirus pandemic. Uche Ugochukwu in this report examines actions taken on malaria in the context of COVID-19.
Countries across the globe are contending with COVID-19, although cases of the pandemic in malaria-prone Africa are currently on the low ebb. Nigeria, for instance, records 9 deaths per hour daily from malaria, but has recorded only 32 deaths from coronavirus since the index case in February. Yet, attention is more on coronavirus. The World Health Organization and other health experts worry that the successes recorded in the prevention and control of malaria in sub-Saharan Africa, where the disease is endemic, could suffer an equivalent of 20 years setback as countries focus most of their energy and resources. Agencies in charge of malaria control in Nigeria are conscious of this fact.
Also working with our partners to ensure that commodities for treating malaria are available. The rapid diagnostic test kits, the ACTs for treatment, and then the injection and test unit for severe malaria treatment.
We are making a significant effort to improve malaria data quality and availability. In 2019, The malaria program conducted a rapid impact assessment to provide information on the incidence of malaria in different zones of the country. There is a role for every citizen. Keep your environment clean, sleep inside the long-lasting insecticidal nets, go for a test when feeling feverish.
Health workers are, however, advised not to see every patient with fever as a COVID-19 case. The theme of 2020 World Malaria Day, Zero Malaria Starts With Me, seeks to encourage everyone from policymakers, private sector to affected communities to take up the challenge of malaria seriously.
Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
And to talk more on Malaria Day, joining me via Skype is Dr. Perpetua Uho Mohibi, Director and Head Surveillance, Monitoring and Evaluation, National Malaria Elimination Program. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, what's new about the about malaria for Nigeria and the world? It's World Malaria Day today.
Well, what is new about malaria in Nigeria and globally now, as we commemorate the 2020 World Malaria Day, is that it also happens to be in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we know that most of the symptoms are related, malaria symptoms and COVID-19 symptoms. What the National Malaria Elimination Program is sending out the message is that people should not be afraid to go to health facilities to seek treatment when they have malaria symptoms. And also the health workers should not be afraid to treat patients who have malaria. That's why the NMEP and its partners are ensuring that rapid diagnostic test kits for testing for prompt diagnosis and treatment of malaria are available at the health facilities so that the patient can easily be treated, particularly now that we're going into the rainy season when the incidence of malaria increases. So we don't have people dying needlessly from malaria for fear of COVID-19.
And the groups of persons who die more from malaria, we know, are children under 5. Now, in terms of the symptoms, from what you're saying, is there a link between the malaria symptom and COVID-19, talking about the temperature?
Well, there is no proven scientific link between the two. Just, apart from, like I said earlier, the symptoms of fever for malaria, that is the main presenting symptom. And also for COVID-19, although there are, in some cases, associated symptoms like respiratory tract infection symptoms as well. But even in very young children, you can have that even when they have malaria as well. So we don't want people to confuse people having malaria with COVID-19. So the best thing is just to quickly conduct the rapid diagnostic test kits to rule out malaria before you start looking for, more complicated tests for the COVID-19. And especially among the vulnerable people, that is the children under 5 and pregnant women, we want to be sure that they get prompt diagnosis and treatment for malaria, because it can easily lead to severe malaria, which has a very high mortality rate.
And the theme for this year says Zero Malaria Starts With Me. What's your advice to Nigerians on self-medication, especially as we try to combat COVID-19?
Yes, my advice is that Nigerians should try not to do self-medication and go to the nearest health facility to ask for the test for malaria. So the slogan for this year is, your fever could be malaria, get tested, which underscores the importance of conducting malaria tests before treatment, because otherwise we don't want our country to start having resistance to the anti-malarial drugs that the country is using, which are the artemisinin-based combination therapy. There are already resistance being reported from Southeast Asia. But so far in Nigeria, we have not recorded any such things. Our drug therapeutic efficacy test shows that it's still quite potent. We don't want to get to the stage of people abusing the ACT through presumptive diagnosis and treatment, and then we get to a stage where we start having resistance to the ACTs.
Right, we hope not to get to that stage. Thank you very much, Dr. Perpetua Oho Mohibi. She's the Director and Head, Surveillance, Monitoring and Evaluation for National Malaria Elimination Program. Right, let's look at more issues. The Federal Capital Territory Administration will invoke relevant laws that enables it mandatorily evacuate unwilling COVID-19 patients to treatment centers. Now, this was one of the decisions reached after a meeting of the FCT COVID-19 Emergency Response Team and the FCTA management. Shuaibu Onoze Yakubu reports that the decision is to contain the spread of the virus in the territory.
Following the submissions by the FCT Emergency Response Team that some COVID-19 positive individuals refuse to go to treatment centers but prefer to receive medication at home, FCT Minister Muhammad Musa Bello expressed dissatisfaction with this development. He disclosed that existing laws will be used to force such persons to go to treatment centers, explaining that their staying at home will pose great risk not just to their families but also to their immediate communities, especially now that FCT is witnessing community transmission of the virus. The meeting also resolved that massive testing will be carried out in areas where community transmission has been established, including Mabushi, Gishiri, and Utako communities. Residents are, however, advised to always use face masks while in public. The minister thanked all frontline workers in the fight against coronavirus and solicited for cooperation of residents by adhering to all laid-down measures, which include social distancing, constant hand washing, and observing stay-at-home directive. So far, the FCT administration has engaged 263 staff, comprising 66 doctors, 103 nurses, 9 pharmacists, 15 laboratory scientists, and 70 other essential workers trained, while 337 others are slated for ongoing training, which is in batches. Shuaibu Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
The West African Health Organization, WAHO, is ECOWAS specialized health institution responsible for coordinating the COVID-19 response at the sub-regional level. Now, joining me via Skype is from the WAHO Secretariat in Burkina Faso, is the regional... is the Director General of WAHO, Professor Stanley Okolo, to tell us what WAHO is doing, in the fight against COVID-19. Thank you very much, Stanley, Dr. Stanley, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I hope you're having a good weekend.
Trying to keep that up in the face of COVID-19. But tell us, can you bring us up to speed with WAHO's support for ECOWAS member states in the fight against COVID-19 that is in line with its strategic regional plan?
As you may be aware, the 15 heads of states of ECOWAS member states met on Thursday, the 23rd of April. It was a historic meeting because it was the first virtual meeting of the heads of state, and all heads of state participated. They were briefed on what WAHO is doing in terms of coordination, collaboration, and communication, leading this across the 15 countries, in terms of providing information, providing support, material and financial, and providing guidance to countries regarding the response to COVID-19. So, as I'm sure you remember, last time we spoke, we explained all the materials that we have provided already, about 31,500 diagnostic kits, a lot of personal protective equipment, a lot of also materials in terms of chloroquine tablets and azithromycin tablets, antibiotics that may be used. We have provided guidance and we have provided financial assistance to some countries to ensure that they can release people to support the contact tracing. The heads of state expressed their appreciation of what WAHO is doing, but they also gave us a greater task in terms of leading this regional response.
Called you doctor earlier. We know it's a gloomy global situation outlook. And Nigeria, I'm very sure the world is witnessing what efforts the government has put in place in the fight against the COVID-19, which is why recently President Muhammadu Buhari was appointed champion of response to COVID-19 in West Africa. What's your take on that?
It is really a great outcome of the meeting. One of the things that we know is that WAHO is there as the leading institution, but of course, working closely with the president of ECOWAS Commission, it was really very helpful for us, for the heads of state, to give us even a greater champion in terms of one of their own, the head of state of Nigeria. And President Muhammadu Buhari himself, even before the Nigerian president was appointed the champion for ECOWAS, he has been providing support directly to us in WAHO in terms of logistic support. People may not be aware of that, but there are so many things that he has been doing to support not only the ECOWAS Commission that is in Abuja, but us that are leading the regional response. So having him now would mean that we have, if you like, direct access to the heads of states in terms of the changing pandemic, in terms of the collaboration and communication, and also regarding whether we require support or whether we need to give advice. These are things that are key, but don't forget that the fight for against COVID-19 is not only a public health fight. There is the economic angle, there is the humanitarian angle, and of course, we know that the heads of state themselves agreed between the ECOWAS Commission and the champion, that is the President Muhammadu Buhari himself, to have, if you like, interministerial committees on economy, on agriculture, and on health to help support this fight.
Right, certainly we're in the face of economic uncertainties, and it's time to intensify collaboration between member states, share experiences and ideas. But what does WAHO and the sub-region, talking about West Africa, looking at in the face of this COVID-19? I'm talking about positivity. What's the outlook?
There are some things that are coming out in terms of when we eventually come out of this. The first is that this is the very first test of all our 15 countries, the network that we set up in terms of national public health institutions. Remember that we had Ebola, but only in 3 countries. Remember also that we have had outbreaks like Lassa fever, yellow fever, but only in a few countries. This is the first time we had a pandemic that is across an epidemic that is across all the countries, and therefore it's a test that tells us what are the strengths and tells us some of the areas that we need to ensure that we improve post-COVID. The second thing that is coming out of this is the issue of resilience, and also how we now know, for example, through the Commissioner for Industry at ECOWAS Commission and some of our own intelligence, which factories manufacture personal protective equipment, masks and gowns and all that across our countries. The third is that, in fact, the retooling of factories is one of the things you're seeing now. So you find that, for example, there is a factory or a brewery in Ghana that is now making sanitizers and disinfectants, and that is also a positive. There are many positives really, but the fact is that at the moment we are fighting it, and we have to remain seized of the focus to fight this pandemic. But when we come out of it, we can look at how we have worked together. We can also look at where there were strains in the relationship. So, for example, border closures that individual countries.
Okay, go ahead, we can hear you. Professor Okolo. Okay, we seem to have lost that signal there. That's the DG West African Health Organization, Professor Stanley Okolo, telling us what ECOWAS member states are doing to support themselves. Let's look at more issues on COVID-19. There is high level of compliance in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital, with total lockdown directed by the state government. Joseph Otson reports that the order is indefinite.
Taraba State is moving from partial lockdown to total lockdown. The state government has directed that all should stay at home with the exemption of essential duty workers. The lockdown commenced from 11 o'clock in the night.
This has become necessary in view of the increasing number of confirmed cases in our neighboring states. In spite of the fact that we have not recorded any confirmed case in Taraba State, we must not be complacent.
The lockdown, however, allows the public a window between 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesdays and Saturdays to make essential household purchases.
All violators of this directive will be arrested and prosecuted. Vehicles found on the road during the period of lockdown will be impounded. A mobile court will be established to promptly try offenders at various points of entry into the state.
In preparation for the isolation period, Jalingo, the state capital, witnessed mad rush with increasing number of vehicles on the roads and markets witnessing beehive of activities. In Jalingo, Joseph Saundo 10, NTA News.
One aspect of the ongoing fight against COVID-19 in the FCT, which leaves a lot to be desired, is the challenge of having to deal with lawbreakers using the law. Abdullah Ajia takes a look at the activities of the mobile courts and the convictions so far in the FCT.
Going by the popular saying that no one is above the law lays credence to the seriousness of the FCT administration in the fight against COVID-19 and enforcing the presidential lockdown order using relevant laws to prosecute recalcitrant offenders. Since the constitution of the mobile courts in line with Section 7 of the Quarantine Act of 2004, across the territory, about 2,000 violators of the lockdown order from the 13 mobile courts have received different sentences of fine and community service from the magistrates.
If you are being tried and probably sentenced for 2 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, 2 days, you have to wait. That means the whole day, if you wanted to just come out and think that you want to have your way, all that day will actually be wasted.
Just recently, one Imam Isa Ismail, who ran foul of the law by leading a congregational prayer, was used to set example in the court.
We took him and brought him before the magistrate here, and the magistrate found him guilty and gave him a fine of about 2,000 naira also with community service. And very soon, most likely, you'll see the imam do some community service here as part of deterrent, because his other leagues of imam around Wusi and other area had complained to us that they all had stopped worship, but he had been the one who had persistent, been very stubborn in going ahead with gathering worshippers.
Now, as little and mild as these sentences may look, in the eyes of the law, those prosecuted are now ex-convicts.
No offense is little, but people look at this as very, very little offense. They see it, what is it? But it is enough to prevent you from, so many things. You know what it means to become an ex-convict, to be termed an ex-convict? It deprives you of almost every legal right you should have as an individual.
Well, with a number of community service emanating from the courts as punishment, no doubt the city will look cleaner and perhaps more hygienic as more convicted persons are sweeping the streets. Abdullah Ajia, NTA News.
The Ministry of Transportation has continued to extend support towards curbing the spread of COVID-19 in the country. The ministry donated medical materials worth millions of naira to federal and state governments. Let's hear from Oinaya Kaluoka.
The Ministry of Transportation, through its agency Nigeria Maritime Administration and Safety Agency NIMASA, as part of its support to federal government's efforts in curbing the spread of COVID-19, donated ambulance, buses and medical equipment. Receiving the items on behalf of the federal government, Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman, Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa said, federal government requires the cooperation of all as the fight against the virus is a collective responsibility. The agency donated ventilator, PPE, rapid test kits, and other medical equipment to Borno state government.
It's going to help in so many ways.
in so many ways. They have really tried. If any agency or government parastatals are in helping states or communities in all these things, I think we can fight this thing within a short period of time.
Since this pandemic started, we have been doing a lot in terms of curtailing this pandemic. Any state that have such a large number of the pandemic, we definitely have to make a little talking contribution to make sure that we mitigate or we curtail the spread of that pandemic.
Lagos and Anambra states had earlier received donation of medical equipment from NIMASA. Oyinaya Kaloka, NTA News.
Let's head to Port Harcourt to join Jenny to find out what the situation is like there. Jenny?
Thank you, Ruth. Good evening and welcome. The Rivers State Government COVID-19 Palliative Committee has distributed 5 trailer loads of gari, rice, yam and noodles to communities on Okrika Council area. Kingsley Amajiri reports.
Each of the 12 wards in the council area got 100 bags of rice, 100 bags of gari, 1,002 bags of yam, and 5 gallons of oil. 5 representatives comprising a chief, a woman leader, youth leader, the representative of the Community Development Committee, CDC, and the ward councillor received the food items. They are to target the indigent class within the communities in the sharing process.
There's a responsibility to ensure that those for whom these goods are given get them.
The Okrika people so much appreciate what he has done for us.
We have visited 8 local governments. We just finished a moment in the morning, and then we are just through with Okrika local government. Tomorrow we are heading to Bonny, Tai, and Opoponkoro. And I can tell you so far it's gone on well.
The Rivers State Government has equally expanded the members of the Palliative Committee to include journalists and civil society groups to check political interference. In Port Harcourt, Kingsley Amajiri, NTA News.
And Muslim faithful in Port Harcourt have joined their counterparts across the world in the annual observance of the Ramadan fast with advice from clerics to heed COVID-19 safety measures. Joy Uzo reports.
In an interview, some clerics say the fasting, which commenced with the sighting of the moon, was coming at a critical time in the life of the nation and the world at large. They urged Muslim faithful in Port Harcourt and the nation to abide by the tenets of the Holy Month by avoiding sin and holding tenaciously to the guiding principles of the Holy Quran for the fast. They warned against rituals with potentials to spread coronavirus and advised the use of the period to pray for the country and complement global efforts in the fight against the dreaded disease.
We have enlightened our congregation, our followers. We have told them on how to protect themselves during this period of a pandemic.
Islam has permitted us, nay, obligated us to stay home and observe our prayers instead of going to the masjid. Why? So that there will be no chance or risk of somebody contracting the virus or spreading the virus to another person.
Leader of the Muslim Ummah and Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Sahad Abubakar IV, had directed the faithful to observe the fasting with due diligence to COVID-19 safety practices. In Port Harcourt, Joy Uzo, NTA News.
And we're done from here, Ruth. It's back to you in Abuja.
All right, thank you, Jenny. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly, so you stay tuned.
Son of despair, our country, Nigeria, needs us now more than ever. We stand a chance to save our great country, Nigeria. A chance to rise up from this pandemic stronger and better. What will be the gain if we do not learn from other countries and observe the lockdown to stop the further spread of the virus? If we loosen our guards and allow this virus doom our very existence, then what have we gained? This is the call to every Nigerian to unite as one and stop the spread of this deadly virus. Stay at home and stay safe. Remember, the virus doesn't move unless we move. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network. Hello everyone,
hope you all keep it safe by washing your hands with soap or using sanitizers. Stay at home. It's the responsible thing to do. And whilst you're at it, you can do anything to keep your body and your mind together. Grow a beard like me if you want to. But please, let's stay at home. It's the responsible thing to do.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, under the leadership of its President General, His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar, CFR MNI, congratulates the Muslim Ummah on the commencement of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, beseeching Allah to grant us the blessings of the month and to inscribe us among the inhabitants of Al-Jannah. The Council has directed the suspension of congregational Taraweeh prayers, Majalis al-Tafsir, Quranic sessions, and i'tikaf seclusion in the mosques during the month of Ramadan. Islamic scholars and organizations are to employ the electronic media for dissemination of tafsir and other da'wah activities. Janaza, washing, shrouding, prayer and burial of Muslim victims are to be carried out by officials of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, and other government health officials. Detailed guidelines on the suspension and the janaza are available on the Council's website and are being published in national dailies and sent to the federal and state governments as well as leadership of state councils and various Islamic organizations. The Quran says, "Make not your own hands contribute to your destruction." His Eminence the Sultan praised the Almighty Allah to preserve our lives beyond the Ramadan and grant us its blessings. Mr. Yusuf Nwoha, Director Administration, Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, announcer.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, earlier we showed you a report by our correspondent Joshua Ojito, who reported on the happenings at Wuse Market. We join him now live to give us a situation report. Joshua, what's the level of compliance at the concerning the 3 p.m. stipulated rule for people, buyers and sellers to leave the market? When you got there, what did you meet?
Thank you very much, Ruth. Right now, I am standing at the main entrance of Wuse Market here in Abuja, the nation's capital. In fact, as of 3 p.m. when I arrived here, I couldn't get access to the market again because the window hours for shopping has elapsed. Of course, as I've earlier reported in that report, the residents of Abuja are to enjoy 8 hours window of shopping. That is from 8 a.m. in the morning to 3 p.m. And when I arrived as of 3 p.m., when I arrived as of 3 p.m., the whole exercise has ended, or the transaction in the market has ended. But right now, I am with the head of corporate affairs of the Abuja Market Management Limited, Innocent, who will shed more light on the level of compliance to this directive. So, what is the level of compliance?
The level of compliance has been wonderful. The shoppers and the traders of Wuse Market, they are complying with the government directive, and we are so pleased with them. But of course, there is still room for improvement. Until we score 100%, we will not be done.
And what do you have to say about this issue that whether Wuse Market is a neighborhood market or a central market?
Yes, this issue has been said over and over again, and we say that Wuse Market doubles as a neighborhood market and as well as a central market, to the extent that in the whole of Wuse area, Wuse district, from zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, there is no neighborhood market where these people, the residents of these zones, can go and get their daily groceries. So to that extent, you could see Wuse Market as a neighborhood market. But because of its popularity that makes people travel all the way from Nyanya to Kubwa, from Kubwa to even Gwagwalada, Suleja to come and shop here, that is why it is considered as central. But for this purpose, by which I mean the market is just about 35% open for people selling food items so that people can just walk in or drive in and get their groceries. So it is not expected that people from Nyanya, Kubwa, and such other distant areas should leave their district and come over to shop at the Wuse Market. I think that is the spirit about allowing only neighborhood market to operate at a time like this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Innocent. And so, as you can see, the level of compliance is absolutely impressive.
All right, thank you very much, Joshua. And yes, Wuse Market, we know, is one of the biggest market in Abuja. So the only thing is social distancing protocol. We hope that will be in place. But let's go to Ondo State. As part of measures to reduce the hardship occasioned by the novel coronavirus pandemic on the masses, especially the vulnerable, Ondo State government has taken delivery of palliative materials, which include bags of rice and kegs of vegetable oil from the federal government. Abiola Ariyo reports that the materials will be distributed to the vulnerable in the 18 local government areas of the state.
The palliative materials include 1,850 kg bags of rice and 700 kegs of vegetable oil presented to Ondo State through the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development.
We all realized the fact that more than ever before, we now have many people that are vulnerable, even if they may not be that poor. So many people actually desire government attention because of the situation we have found ourselves now.
Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu received the materials and handed them over to the Ondo State COVID-19 Palliatives Committee, appreciated the federal government's gesture, assuring that the food items would be distributed evenly to the people of the state.
We have covered all the local government in the first round, but the second round is going to start very soon. We'll do second round, and if you still have more palliative to give, we'll also do other rounds. So it's not something that is ended.
The state government says arrangement is on ground to distribute the items to the targeted groups across the 18 local government areas of the state. In Akure, Abiola Rio, NTA News.
And in Maiduguri, the state government has flagged off distribution of palliative to 60,000 households comprising about 300,000 persons in the first phase. Governor Babagana Umar Zulum, who flagged off presentation at Customs IDP's camp in Maiduguri, also monitored compliance with the lockdown. Let's hear from Mohammed Goni.
Borno State government set up a 16-member committee to commence distribution of palliative. Each of the male beneficiaries was given a bag of rice, maize and cooking oil, while their female counterparts were presented with fabrics and 5,000 naira each. Professor Obagana Umar Azlim appreciated the Northeast Development Commission for presenting 15,000 bags each of varieties of food items to complement efforts of the state government.
On behalf of the government and people of Ondo State, I sincerely wish to convey my sincere appreciation to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces President for establishing the Northeast Development Commission.
The governor used the opportunity to sensitize the beneficiaries and the public on the need to adhere strictly to the preventive measures against COVID-19 and further urged them to desist from all forms of gathering. He further charged them to report to government any visitor to their community for appropriate measures. Meanwhile, Governor Obagana Umara, who drove around the metropolis to monitor level of compliance with the statewide lockdown to prevent spread of COVID-19, expressed satisfaction with what he saw. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud Koni, NTA News.
And next up for us is Kaduna. Let's join Suleiman to find out what the situation is like there. Suleiman.
And welcome to Kaduna. The effort of government to contain the coronavirus pandemic has recorded further boost with the commencement of large-scale testing of samples at the African Center of Excellence for Neglected Tropical Diseases and Forensic Biotechnology, Ahmed Bello University Zaria. Tina Toro reports.
With a capacity of testing 500 samples at a time, the coronavirus testing facility at the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria is already in operation, with hands on deck to ensure that results are released in the shortest possible time.
Our results are quite precise. In fact, what I did was comparing exactly the result I got from Sokoto, repeating exactly the same thing here, and even confirming what we have in Abuja. All of them went as we expected it.
The testing center, fully equipped with state-of-the-art facilities, is expected to enhance efficiency in the fight against COVID-19 through accelerated and broad-based testing of samples, with a future target of testing up to 2,000 samples per day.
Diverse group from various backgrounds with a lot of expertise in molecular testing, which we are now going to use that knowledge for testing of the coronavirus.
For the personnel that will be involved is in place.
Nigerians are still advised to take responsibility by staying at home and staying safe. In Zaria, Tina Toro, NTA News.
Nigerian Air Force Officers' Wives Association, NAFOA, has extended hand of fellowship to the most vulnerable households in Kaduna to cushion the effect of the lockdown imposed to curb the spread of coronavirus pandemic in the state. The report.
The lockdown order came with attendant effect of food shortage and other essential needs of the people, especially the less privileged and vulnerable persons. The donation of the food items to people of Kutungari, a neighboring community to the Nigerian Air Force Base Kaduna by the Air Force Officers' Wives Association, is to ameliorate the effects.
In fact, this is my first time I've seen this type of thing. And I pray for Air Force Base. In fact, I give them a good lot of sincerity. We appreciate what they have done to us, and we appreciate it more than 100 times. May God bless them.
In a message, chairperson of NAFOA and wife of the Chief of Air Staff, Hafsat Sadiq Baba Abubakar, advised communities to maintain personal and environmental hygiene, as well as social distancing, to augment the ongoing effort of curtailing the spread of the virus.
Coronavirus is real. I urge you to comply with all preventive measures advised by experts.
Distribution of the palliatives is part of the 56th anniversary activities of the Nigerian Air Force.
And with that report, is back to Ruth for more on Nationwide.
Thank you, Suleiman, and that's it for us on Nationwide. Thank you very much for your company. Always stay safe, remember that. I'm Ruth Aguele. Bye.